Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance Simply Reds podcast. My name is Reuben, and as always, I'm joined by Louie. You doing okay, Louie?
Hi, Reuben. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Currently staying in a hotel in Bridgewater in Somerset, so
Oh, very nice.
living life to the luxury right now on a work trip.
Living the dream.
But we're now counting down the sleeps until our first league game of the season. And with that comes the end of pre-season. So what better place to start than to look at our most recent game against Crystal Palace, where we lost 3-0 against a very, very strong, I think, Palace squad. They had a number of internationals playing, a number of players who would definitely be starting their Premier League match, and will probably be starting whatever European competition that they're in this season. Louis, what did you make of the game?
I thought it was a pretty respectable performance. Like you say, it's a very strong Palace team. European opposition. I think we can say we played European opposition in pre-season, which is nice. And yeah, it was. It's tough. It's a tough one to gauge because it's really strong opposition. They players. I mean, players like Mateta and Eze starting, which that's just a cut above anything. That's several levels above anything we're going to face this season. You'd expect. So in a sense, it was a pretty respectable performance, especially when you consider that we sort of chopped and changed with trialists coming in, and it's not as if we were going all out with our first choice 11, which I'm not sure anyone knows what it will be right now. So yeah, it's tough to read too much into it. The perspective from Palace side, one of my good friends is a Palace fan, and he was saying that he thought we pressed them quite well, and he thought we looked all right, and we pretty respectable performance on our side. And I think the fact that we conceded so early, you kind of think, oh, we're going to concede 6 just like last summer, just like pre-season last year. But yeah, Harvey Davies made Harvey Davies. Sorry, I thought I forgot his name for a second. Harvey Davies made a couple of good stops. Couldn't really do much about the goals. But when you're playing against someone like Barry Eze, who could just run through your midfield and lob the keeper from 25-30 yards, you're in for a bit of a long afternoon. I thought it was a good test. Good to see Jay Williams play 90 minutes as well. I know Scott after the game was particularly keen to kind of big up the importance of getting some more minutes into his legs, which is, Jay's probably going to be starting for us when fit. And hopefully he is fit for most of the season. So, and also when not suspended, let's not forget. So,
Yeah, I mean, he only just lasted 90 minutes. He barely made 25 minutes, I think, after
there
a
was a particularly.
tackle.
Yeah, I don't think Jay Williams knows what a friendly is. To be fair to him, so yeah, it's good to see him playing 90 minutes because he hadn't featured in the previous couple of friendlies, or he'd only played like 25 minutes or so. I feel like it'd be good to just get one more pre-season game with more of the first choice 11 out on the pitch, just for a bit more cohesion going into the season, a bit more fitness. But you have to trust that the work that's been done over the summer, and it feels like it's flown by. I remember seeing the players come back into, like, all the clips on social media of the players coming back into training, and that could only have been. It only feels like a month ago, but it must have been about 6-7 weeks ago now. So that's quite, that feels like it's flown by.
It does. And so I was being kind. I said 25 minutes. It was the 8th minute that tackle went.
It's good to know some things never change, and maybe Brighton fans will forgive him now. He doesn't discriminate. He just tackles whoever.
Whether you're a seagull or an eagle.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't mind.
He hates all birds.
I've got to play the Magpies this season against Notts County.
If you're a Notts County midfielder, watch out.
Watch out, Serena and Gordon.
Indeed, yeah.
And there's a bit of talk on X, or Twitter, as most people still call it, about playing Crystal Palace and how actually useful it is. I mean, when I heard that we were playing Crystal Palace, I was a bit like, again. For the past 2 seasons, I've gone down for that game. but I think I'm just a bit bored playing Palace every pre-season. And yeah, whilst they bring out a good squad and it's a good way of getting attendances up, I think it's better to try and go for another team in the Premier League and Championship. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's a useful run out for the boys?
Yeah, it's a strange one because I think you're right in the sense that how useful is it? Because we're not going to play anyone near as good as Palace this season, not in the league anyway.
MK Dons.
Well, the money they're spending, yeah, we'll maybe come on to that later. It's a tough one because it's not reflective of how much of the ball we'll have this season, how much kind of the style of football, the quality of players that we're going to be playing against. So it's in terms of preparation tactically and technically, perhaps it's not really that useful. And again, kind of with the team that we put out, where it's a bit chopped and changed, lots of subs, a few trialists. It's not really indicative of what we will look like on the Saturday and again on in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I don't really know how useful it is, but like I say, I think it is useful in terms of it's almost a stress test of the players, isn't it? You're not going to play anyone that good again this season, most likely. So if you can hold your own against these, and put in a respectable performance, don't worry about the score, just put in a decent performance. You can hold your own against a really solid Premier League team who are going to be playing in Europe this season, FA Cup winners. You'd have nothing to fear from any side in League Two. So in that sense, perhaps it's more of a mental exercise than a technical or tactical exercise. And in that sense, it might be quite useful. But I do understand what you mean. You play the same team 3 seasons in a row, it kind of gets a little bit, But we used to play Brighton a lot in pre-season. So we've kind of clearly just decided to go up the M23 rather than look down the A23 this time. But yeah, like I said, I think it would be good. Maybe we could get Fulham. I think if we played Fulham in pre-season maybe 2 years
They've
ago.
done some behind closed doors games against Fulham.
Oh, possibly, yeah. It rings a bell. But yeah, there's plenty of sort of London-based Premier League and Championship teams that we could also play. But again, they've got to want to come down here and play us. And maybe if they see Jay Williams putting in some reducers, then they're not willing to risk their multi-million-pound, very expensive players. And
Yeah,
in that sense, I understand it.
I mean, just looking at the stats of the game, according to FootMob, we had 49% possession, which I think is still pretty impressive. And when I was listening, I paid £8 to watch it, and when I was listening to Gary and John on the commentary, they were saying that actually we are still playing the Crawley way, just because we are playing against a bigger and better team. Scott is still kind of installing the Crawley kind of DNA onto them, or Scott Lindsay's DNA onto them. And I think that's a positive, that we didn't completely embarrass ourselves really. And there were chances where we really held our own. I was particularly impressed with Kyle Scott. I think he's going to be some player for us this season, hopefully for the next couple of seasons. I think he's a really, really good player. Were there any standout performance that you saw, or that you saw on people mentioning on social media?
Yeah, I was gonna mention Kyle Scott. I think, he's someone, we touched on this last week. He's someone who we've been linked to, maybe back in January or last summer. It's certainly someone who rang a bell in terms of players we were looking to sign.
Yeah.
Very much a Wagme style signing as well, or a Preston Johnson style signing. So it's interesting that he's come in this summer. But yeah, he his performance was probably the standout in terms of how comfortable he looks. Led a lot of positive stats and underlying numbers and metrics in terms of his passes and his touches and duels won and everything like that. If you're into your stats, and yeah, he looks just like he could be a really, really perhaps a bit of a if you're looking at League Two signings across the league this season, you look at standout signings. Obviously a couple of MK Dons players like Aaron Collins and Nathaniel Mendez-Lang. But he could be someone who actually becomes one of the standout players in the league. And I really think he could be, in the same way that Jeremy Kelly was and Liam Kelly was at times a couple of seasons ago. I think he's possibly going to be a potential player of the season candidate for us. I'm very excited to see more of him, and he feels like very much a Scott Lindsay player as well, which is always positive.
Yeah, he does. People have referenced him to a couple of players from our previous years. However, he's almost playing in a similar role to what Liam Kelly was playing. Somebody even mentioned whether it's more of the kind of Jeremy Kelly type signing as well and position. It'll be interesting to see how Kyle plays over in the course of the season. And hopefully, even if he does perform really well for us this season, we'd get some decent money for him.
Or maybe he'll be playing in League One for us next season.
Yeah, hopefully.
If everything goes really well. But yeah.
And just kind of moving away from the kind of on the field stuff, I ranted about this last season when we played Crystal Palace. And just one of my pet hates was just seeing how many Palace shirts there were in the home end. You either do it, you either be strict about it, or you just say to people, stand, sit, do whatever around the stadium. Don't try and segregate. And I think some people would argue, though, it's money for the club, like Crawley fans didn't end up buying tickets for. And yeah, you're partly right. But it's just a pet hate of mine. I saw one comment saying that there was Palace fans and Crawley fans were like starting on each other and lots of arguments between the two. It's just one of my pet hates. I hate it. I hated it when last season when we were just sitting. I sat near the away fans, but then when Palace scored, pretty much everyone around me was cheering. I'm in home end.
Yeah, it's anyway. Yeah, I do get what you mean. It's something that I wish the club would enforce it more, but I guess there's no incentive. They know it's a pre-season friendly. There's no they're gonna get the money for the tickets rather than have half an empty East Stand because it's only pre-season friendly. No one's that bothered about it. It is something that hopefully that's the last we see of it for this season. Won't see any. I don't know. I remember years and years ago, the season got promoted from the conference. There was Newport fans in the home end when we played them that season. That was my first experience of seeing like an actual fight at the football because there was a bit of a scuffle that broke out, and it was like, oh bloody hell, what are they doing here? So yeah, it's not something that it's an uncomfortable sort of situation to be in as well. If you're a home fan, you think I'm in the home fans, and then suddenly you see away fans around you. It's a bit like what. It should be policed better, but I kind of get why it happens, especially in the context of a pre-season friendly.
Yeah, so kind of moving away from the Palace game then, we asked on Twitter if there's any concerns people have kind of going into the main part of the season. Just some responses were, so you mentioned final third connection being an issue most of the pre-season. Somebody said, a couple of people have said about need another forward, somebody who knows where the back of the net is. So you also mentioned Shamanga. Then two people mentioned about need cover for Flint and Conroy and could do with a big man up front as well. And then somebody said if we sell Flint or Barker, didn't create much of the Palace game, but we'll put that down to them being a very good side. Not convinced about wing backs. Forster looked good, but perhaps another option there. Louie, what are your concerns?
Yeah, I'd say they're all pretty fair comments. I think one thing I would say is I think our strength in depth at centre back is pretty good. Like if Joy McCain is your fifth choice centre back, that's like not a bad position to be in. I really like the fact that you're having to choose between Charlie Barker and Ben Radcliffe, sort of on the right of that defence. And it probably will be Charlie Barker to start with. I think that's a pretty good position to be in because I think Ben Radcliffe is excellent. And obviously Josh Flint, we know how good he is. We know Dion's a good centre-back at this level. So, yeah, cut some cover for Josh Flint would be good because he's the only left-footed centre-back that we've got. And he's had his injury issues last year, whether he's over them, touch wood he is. And if we can get, 40-odd games out of him, that would be brilliant. I agree with the sort of concerns about kind of lack of firepower up top and kind of the depth out wide. I said this to you before we started recording, Reuben, but I'm not convinced that we've got. I think I like Harry Forster as a player, but he's had a lot of fitness issues. Ali Aliemo can be quite hit and miss. When he's on it, he's brilliant, but can you rely on him throughout a season? Dion Pereira can he step up to League Two? Apparently very good in the National League last season, but he's had spells in League Two before and not quite cut the mustard, so to speak. Danny Cashman looks like he could be operating out wide in a sort of a similar way that Jeremy Kelly did, but again, can he step up from the National League South? There's no reason why he can't. We've seen, our promotion team a couple of years ago was built off of players who made the step up either from National League or National League South, so you can't really write them off, but I would definitely like to see just strength, a bit more strength and depth up top. Someone who you feel like can get you 15, 20 goals a season, because I'm not convinced by Shamanga. I wasn't overwhelmed by it when he came in, and hopefully he proves me wrong, but I'm just not sensing that there's someone who's going to score 15, 20 goals in the same way that Orsi did a couple of years ago. Louis Flower, again, wouldn't write someone off coming from the National League, but he doesn't come in with a huge amount of pedigree or a huge amount of goals on his CV. And again, neither did Danilo Orsi from League Two level. We've had players before who have sometimes they just need the right environment, sometimes they just need the right sort of system to play in. So I'm not going to write any of these players off, but I feel like if there's one area of the team that I'm a little bit concerned about, it is sort of out wide and up top. So I do agree with a lot of those comments. I also do have concerns about the goalkeeper department. I know I sort of praised Harvey Davis because he did make a couple of good stops in the Portsmouth game and didn't really disgrace himself by any means, but he didn't come with glowing reviews from Crew fans. So there's a little bit of a concern there. But again, I feel like you can't always judge players by what previous clubs fans are saying, because that's that. We saw it with Liam Kelly a couple of years ago. Rochdale fans were laughing at us for signing him, and he was absolutely excellent. So I don't necessarily like to use that as like the only opinion that I've got on a player, but it kind of is useful in forming the basis of an opinion, and he could completely prove me wrong. And Scott's got a decent record with goalkeepers for the most part. So
yeah, I mean Harvey kind of put himself in good light. I think over the past couple of pre-seasons, there was a bit of the slip up, wasn't there? Was it Dagenham and Redbridge? Where I think he was at fault for one of the goals, or it was one of the lower league teams we played against. He was at fault. But I mean, apart from that, I don't think he's been put too much wrong. He had a good save where, as they tried to chip him against Palace. I think if we go to the defence, there's obviously a place that Scott Lindsay is wanting to strengthen. Because I think most of our trialists that we have had over the past few games have been in that position. Whether it's Noah Watson, Louis Watson's brother. So no doubt over the rest of over the next few days, we might find out whether we've signed any of those trialists.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like I just said, I feel like that is one of our stronger areas. If you look at the players we've got there, perhaps it's because there's concerns about the fitness of, Dion's not had a great fitness record. Josh Flint had, his injury problems. Joy's only just come back for a long-term injury. So perhaps there is a thinking of, can we rely on this group of players to get us through 46 games? If we get three injuries, we're really down. I mean, we saw it last season. We've seen it before. We haven't had a great, as a club, we haven't had a great injury record in recent years. So I can understand perhaps there's kind of the desire to get some more covering, particularly on the left-hand side.
Yeah. So as we kind of look towards the beginning of the season, transfer window closed on the 1st of September. So we've still got a little while of the transfer window left open. Can you see any players going out? We haven't seen the likes of Wallacott play at all this pre-season. I don't think he's even made the bench. Could somebody like Jack Rolls or Papadopoulos or Schwanmi, could we see them either leaving or going out on loan, do you think?
Yeah, none of those would surprise me if they went out. I know Jack Rolls played a few minutes. Was it down at Southampton He might. I think he scored the goal down at
Yeah,
Southampton.
I think he scored the goal at Southampton, and he even had a few minutes against Palace as well.
Yeah. So I think Scott quite likes Jack. I might be surprised if Jack Rolls does go, because I think Scott quite values him as someone who can play a few different positions. He played him out wide when he came back last season, and he actually played really. I remember the Birmingham away on Good Friday. It was like Jack Rolls at right wing back against like the best team in the league, and I was like, oh my word, what is going to happen here? And he actually really held his own. He put in a proper shift, and that might well have been his first game back actually, when he got recalled from his loan. So I feel like Rolls would probably stay. I wouldn't be surprised if Papadopoulos went out on loan, because I'm not sure. I think the midfield in particular is quite congested. We do have a lot of depth there, and like you say, he hasn't really featured. Shiwunmi, wouldn't be surprised if he goes, because again, Scott didn't seem to fancy him at the end of last season. He hasn't played. I don't think he's played a single minute in pre-season. Correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
he hasn't. Don't think he has.
So yeah, I think perhaps there's an element of wanting to get a couple of these players out before we bring in a couple more. You know, if you're looking at the fact we've got 3 strikers, we play one up front, really. You know, are we looking to maybe move Shiwunmi on before bringing someone else in? Same with the goalkeepers. Are we looking to move Wallacott on so we can bring someone else in? Yeah, I expect there'll be 1 or 2 leaving, but I think if you told Scott the window's going to close tomorrow, he'd probably be fairly happy with the business that we've done at the same time. And I think I think he'd want to bring in 1 or 2 more in the positions that we spoke about. But I think the squad's in largely quite a good place, and we all know we're going to be glued to Twitter on transfer deadline day, seeing if we bring anyone else in. But yeah, I think there's maybe a little bit more business to do, but I think we're in a pretty good spot, other than maybe 2 going out, 2 more coming in.
Yeah, we've not really utilised the loan market at all, either, have we? I mean,
No.
we've got Harvey Davies on from Liverpool, but I believe that's it.
Yeah.
For the loan market.
Off the top of my head, yeah, and it's something that is quite odd. We must be the only team that's not really using it. Maybe MK Dons aren't, because they can just buy the players they want rather than having to loan them. But yeah, I think I wonder how much Scott wants to rely on loanees, because I think you sort of see a situation like what you saw with Walsall last year, where they had Nathan Lowe, who was just tearing League Two apart, got recalled by Stoke, and then Walsall, the performances didn't get that much worse, but they just couldn't, they couldn't convert those performances into good results, purely because they didn't really, you can't replace that many goals. And if you've got someone on a permanent, then that you can avoid that situation. So maybe Scott's reluctant to rely too much on loanees, purely because if, say, we loan a player from a Championship or a Premier League club, they're doing really well, that club's probably going to go, well, why don't we try them in League One, for the second half of the season?
Yeah.
So
I think there's always a concern about the first half of the season with loans, isn't it? About them being recalled in January. Second half of the season, not so much. But I mean, with some of our better players over the past few seasons have been loan players.
Yeah, Bradley last year.
Yeah. And so whether come January we're not in the position that we'd want to be, whether we might be able to utilise the loan market. Because I like to think that Crawley, with some of the players that we have brought in over the past few seasons on loans, has been a quite good place for their development. Whether it's the likes of Kamari Doyle, who at one point was rumoured to go to Reading, and even just our own players, like seeing Liam Fraser come from the States over to here, now playing for Reading. You've got the likes of plenty of other players whose development have just improved at the club. So no doubt over the course of the next month or so, they will see what other comings and goings there are within the squad. So our first league game is against Grimsby on the 2nd of August. Louis, do you remember the last time we played Grimsby?
Last time we played Grimsby would have been the last day of the season, 23-24. One of my favourite memories from that season.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favourite games from that season, not outside the obvious Wembley and the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's of course the game that put us into the guaranteed our place in the playoffs. Although we were very cautiously watching. I've forgotten who the other team was who were trying to.
I think it was Barrow.
I
think
think
Barrow
you could be
lost.
right, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Barrow. And we went 2-0 up in the second half, sort of halfway through the first half, and it's kind of like, well, we should see this out, and we were pretty comfortable.
We were.
And it was just a case of, right, everyone was just. It's kind of a bit like on against the Northampton game at home, second to last game of last season. Once we realised we're going to win this, it was a case of just, right, what are the other results? What are Burton doing? It was a similar situation. Everyone was just waiting for a goal to go in, to go our way. So yeah, and I believe the last time we travelled to Grimsby, that was a pretty memorable game as well.
My research didn't go that far.
It was I think it was start of the season, would have been maybe in the September, late August, early September of that same season. We were 2-0 down, came back to win 3-2, a late Danilo Orsi winner after some quick feet from Crawley Lolos, and I think that was I think it was an injury time winner. So however
96 minute.
There you go.
Winner, yeah.
So
do you know who one of the Grimsby goal scorers were for that game?
Was it Toby Malone?
No.
Was it Gavin Holohan?
Yes, it was.
Yes, I knew it was going to be one of the two. Blimey.
And that's kind of what I was next going to do, is just mention the player who's played for both Grimsby and Crawley.
Oh, okay.
And you've mentioned both of them. I had that written down.
I reckon if we go back far enough, there's got to be some more.
Didn't Jordan Maguire-Drew play for Grimsby?
Yes, yeah. That's an excellent shout, yeah.
I barely remember what I had for dinner, let alone. Yeah, here I am. Talk about random Crawley players who used to play for both Crawley and Grimsby.
I feel like there must be one or two from our conference days as well, under Big Steve Evans, I reckon. Because I remember our first game that season was playing against Grimsby, so I've got distinct memories of we must have had one or two. But anyway, yeah, that's a good little bit of trivia. I didn't realise he'd scored that game.
But one player to look out for Grimsby that they've signed this season is Christy Pym, their goalkeeper. Signed from Mansfield, who was Mansfield's regular goalkeeper in League One last season, and has played over 400 League Cup appearances. So no doubt will bring a lot of experience to their side.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid signing for them. He's a very solid keeper at this level, and I think Grimsby are kind of flown under the radar a little bit. A lot of people just kind of talking about MK Dons, Chesterfield, Bristol Rovers, Barnet. But I feel like Grimsby are probably a little bit of a dark horse for a top three place. They've got a really good manager, David Artell, and I think they just seem quite solid. You know, that sort of signing is kind of just what they do, and they've. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough first test for us coming on. Sorry, first, it's going to be a really tough test for us going up there, first game in the season, against a side that I think will be really tough to beat. I don't think they'll concede many. I think they'll be, just a very, really functional, organised League Two side, and I mean that not in a long ball way, but it's just in like a really well drilled, difficult to break down. Difficult to score against. I think it's a really tough test for us going up there first up, but so if we can go up there, get a point, put in a good performance, I think that will probably set us up quite nicely for the start of the season.
Yeah, hopefully. I was saying to you, Louis, before we came on, how annoyed I am because here I was being prepared. I was like, I'm going to book my train tickets for Grimsby. I think about a month in advance. It cost me like 50 quid. I then realised last week that I've already got plans for Saturday, so I'm not going to be going out to Grimsby.
That is a killer. If there's anyone who wants to take Reuben's train tickets,
if anyone wants to travel via Cheltenham, let me know.
Yeah, then do drop us a DM on Twitter or something, or email the chair at CTSA, whatever the email is. Yeah, that is a killer. But anyone who is travelling up, go well. Good luck. Bring those 3 points back to us. I imagine it'll be pretty decent travelling up there. And speaking of travelling up to Grimsby, there are still coaches available with GH coaches. So they've still got 4 more seats as of yesterday. We're recording this on Tuesday evening, so as of Monday, there's still a few seats for both the Grimsby game and for the Swansea League Cup tie as well. So if you do want to travel and you're not sure how to get there, just contact GH Coaches on Twitter, and Alan and Pat will happily sort you out with your transport.
That was smooth.
Cheers. that was off the dome as well. That wasn't scripted. So yeah.
So now moving away from the on the field football, let's look off the field. And probably the biggest talking point this past 7 days is the third kit. Louis, what are your thoughts? Like it, love it, don't like it?
I'm almost ambivalent towards it. I know it's like the worst answer I could give you, but
On the fence.
I like. I'm not on the fence. I quite like black and red kits. Like it does work. Like, you know, I think there's so many iconic, you know, AC Milan, for example, playing in black and red. I think obviously the contentious bit is the badge, which I think had they consulted fans on, or if the club had kind of put a poll out, or even just consulted fan groups such as the CCSA or the Devil's Advocates, or reached out to fans in some way to say, look, this is what we want to do. What do you think? It would have gone down a lot better. But I think the fact that and it's not the fact that anyone's particularly attached to our current badge anyway, because we've only had it for like 14 years. But, you know, if they wanted to change the badge and they put a poll out, you know, and if they wanted to change the badge full time permanently across the club, across all the merchandise, across the kits, I don't think necessarily anyone would be up in arms about it. It's not, you know, it's our current badge is fine, but it's, you know, it's not like something that anyone's particularly attached to, or it's not got much history or tradition behind it, and in the sense that we've had it for 100 years. I think what concerns people is that they've just done it without asking. They've kind of just gone ahead, and it's a little bit like, oof, you know, it's another sort of, we say, or at least I do, I say a lot about WAGMI kind of shooting themselves in the foot with some of the decision making and just not taking care to kind of reach out to fans. And this is another example of that, I think. But the kit itself, I think, is fine. We're probably only playing it like 2 or 3 times this season. So I think, yeah, it's something that if they do something similar in the future, if they want to change the badge full time, I think they need to go about it differently. But it's not like the end of the world, and the kit itself is all right. It's not the best of the 3, but it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't really like the kit. Even if I had the proper Crawley badge on, I still don't think I'd like the kit. Next morning, I looked at it, I was like, okay, it's growing on me. And actually, after seeing some pictures from Friday night's game, against Crystal Palace, Birmingham quite likes it, actually. Probably a number of people have purchased it and wearing it around the ground. And yeah, just on the logo that's on it, I'm personally not that fussed that they didn't consult. I'd much rather they consulted on the actual kit rather than the badge, just because the kit's what you wear. This is both home, away, and third kits. I think the clubs that do those votes, that you sometimes see quite early on in the season for the following season, are quite clever with it, rather than it being a kit that nobody likes, full stop. I think that it's quite common now for a lot of clubs to have a change of logo for their third kit, and they're not required to do any consultation. Some owners do, some owners don't. I suppose I'm probably of the mindset where there's no harm in having consultation. Is that the right way around?
I think so. Yeah, I think I get what you're saying.
They might as well do a consultation. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Because there's no harm in not doing it.
I guess.
And yeah, I mean, it's still Crawley. They're obviously wanting to use a play on this Devil's Trident. I mean, you see it as you go around the stadium now. just by main reception. You've got the two ones standing side by side.
It's
With
clearly a
the
branding
second
thing, isn't it?
doors. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you
Which is,
see it on a lot of the social media now.
yeah, it's a little bit. As someone who I do think of myself as a bit of like a traditionalist. I don't like to see clubs just you becoming a brand and becoming soulless marketing vehicles. Like, for example, like the Juventus badge when they changed that just so they could sell like leisure wear with it on and make it into like a fashion thing. I'm kind of I feel like that's what they're trying to do here. Obviously, Crawley aren't nearly on the scale of Juventus. I'm not saying it's like directly comparable, but it kind of just feels like yeah, I think that's perhaps where it makes me a little bit uneasy. It's just it feels a bit like you're trying to kind of make it so that it's a badge that you can put on hoodies and sweatshirts and whatnot, and it can kind of become some sort of like casual wear or leisure wear, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think that's probably where the angle that they're going for, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try and do more of it, and that's where I think they really need to consult fans, because I think it's an important part of the club's identity, and I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see that bit of identity eroded with something that doesn't really feel like Crawley. That's kind of where I land on it. But as a one-off thing for a third kit, I'm kind of wary, but not hugely like up in arms about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the kind of things I've seen on social media the complaints about it haven't necessarily been about the lack of consultation. Most of them are the fact that I just don't really like the logo that's on it,
Which is fair, I think, yeah.
rather than the consultation part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's probably bigger things to be worrying about than a kit that you'll probably hardly ever actually wear. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's the players that wear it, and it's the club that you support. But apart from the couple of games over the next few weeks, there's also a Great Escape exhibition at the Crawley Museum, which is currently, I think it's on the High Street in Crawley, as in on the road, the High Street. It's not like Crawley really has a proper High Street, and it's being run by Mick Fox and Steve Leake, and it's available for you to go and have a look round until the Saturday, 16th of August. I think it's a huge shame that the club haven't jumped on this, done any advertising for it. I think they're really missing a trick of this, and could have done it almost in consultation with them. I mean, Crawley I think they've got a fake replica, I should probably use, trophy from when we won promotion. It's a shame they haven't been able to bring that down to the exhibition. But I mean, yeah, if people are free until the 16th of August, pop down for a few hours and go see the good work that Steve and Mick have done, looking at the past 2.5 seasons from our relegation, from being very close to relegation through to promotion to the end of the most recent season. It's definitely one not to be missed. But there have also been a number of other changes around the club. I think the thing that breaks my heart the most is no more Brickborough. I think they've probably been, at least in the first season, probably were one of the best sponsorships we've ever had.
Yeah.
When it comes to fan engagement, when it comes to
creating iconic celebrations.
Yeah. And just being, I think when Brickborough first came on board, people were like, "What on earth is this? Why have I got a Lego head on the side of my sleeve?" But I think they then started to get people on board and sponsored the club at a time when not many people really wanted to sponsor us. I mean, was it the Community Foundation on the front of shirts for that season?
Yeah, we effectively didn't have a front of shirt sponsor for 2 seasons, which is just remarkably. Yeah, it's just remarkable, I think. But anyway, sorry. Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame Brickborough didn't really do much last season. But no doubt it's probably because of the situation that the club was in.
There's also, are they also sponsoring Hibs now? I think I saw something about a year ago where they're also doing work with Hibs up in Scotland.
Yeah, I think it's
which kind of understands
kids shirts or something.
Yeah, kind of understand why that would be a priority for them. But yeah, there wasn't much work with Brickborough last season, but certainly season before they were. Yeah, there was some brilliant content, and yeah, obviously the stuff with Danilo Orsi, which created a celebration that he still uses to this day, I believe. Not that he scored as much the last few months, but yeah, definitely they're definitely, yeah, and I think it's probably good for them as well, like good business for them because yeah, like you say, they came in and people were like, what is this boring Lego stuff? And it's probably been quite quite a positive move for them as well. So that, yeah, good luck to them, and they were certainly one of the more memorable sponsors that we've had. If you can have a memorable sponsor,
Yeah, and they're a good group of guys as well. I've met them a few times at Wembley and met them at the end of season awards the year we got promoted. So good luck to them, and hopefully we can see them sponsoring Crawley again. But before the game at Crystal Palace, we saw the club making a few announcements about changes around the club and the stadium. So first and probably most importantly, the naming of the press box to be the Ken Blackmore press box, which I thought was an absolute class move by a club.
yeah,
And it's such a nice touch.
It really is. It's just a very fitting tribute, and kind of like, yeah, I wasn't actually expecting it. It kind of very much came out of the blue. But yeah, well, just a brilliant touch and a lovely way to remember someone who gave so much of his time to the club, and it's a lovely way to remember Ken. So absolutely, just can't fault it.
No, not at all. And of course, it'll be an absolutely huge loss and miss for away game commentary. Which
Absolutely.
I know he didn't do as much of towards the end. But I mean, yeah, just listening to his iconic voice and his great commentary will be a huge miss this season.
Definitely.
But there have also been quite a number of other changes around the club. Sponsorship being one of them. The club made some announcements on sponsorship, changing who the sponsor for the East Stand is, the family zone is. Also, a new sponsor for the Player of the Month, which is an award we haven't really done before. Or if we have, we've done it for a couple of months and just kind of given up because we had a bad run of form. Like, remember when we had, was it Domino's that sponsored Player of the Match?
Yeah, that was a thing across the whole EFL, I think, if I remember rightly. So yeah, there'd be a pizza box that was chucked into the crowd, and whoever caught it would.
I don't think it's chucked into the crowd on purpose.
I think no, it wasn't meant to be actually.
But there was once where it did, and I think didn't Twitter have to do didn't the club do a post?
There's a couple of things like that. Yeah, I think that was an EFL wide thing where Domino's sponsored the player of the match for every game, for every team. Yeah, it's good to see the amount of work that's gone into the commercial side of the club this summer. It's kind of for a lot of people, they go to the games, they care about the results, they care about transfers, and that's it. But I think the work that's been desperately needed over the last few years to kind of get more revenue streams in, just maximize those opportunities, and it's good for the businesses that we have those relationships with as a club. So yeah, something like sponsoring the fan zone, it's such a simple thing, but if you can get extra money in that way through no real effort in terms of changing things, and you might put a banner up, or you might whatever it is that you have to do to kind of give these companies their airtime, so to speak, it's absolutely worth it. It's really positive to see the work that's been done on that side of the club over the last couple of months, because without sounding too cynical or too snarky, it's amazing what happens when you have someone whose job is actually to do that, which is something that we just didn't have before. And suddenly we've got someone in who does that job, who has experience of doing that job, and these things happen. And it can only be a positive for the club to be getting the extra revenue in, to be building up relationships with these businesses. So yeah, great news.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's still plenty of sponsorship opportunities. I mean, the stadium is still Broadfield Stadium.
That's the big one. That's
I
the
mean,
big.
yeah.
If anyone
What
does
about
want to sponsor the
Simply
stadium,
Reds? What about
yeah,
Simply Reds Stadium?
we could
I think
use
that's
the
got a bit of a ring to it.
yeah, we could use the we could use the publicity.
Yeah, we could. So if anyone who listens from the club wants us to sponsor their stadium, let us know.
Please DM us. Yeah, please DM us.
Um, and to talk about our own stadium, the addition of the black paint, which I know you guys I think mentioned in the last podcast, didn't you?
Mm.
But
Yeah, we
I
did.
think
Yeah, it looks very
good.
smart. I think it needed a touch of paint. So that's another. Yeah, it's another positive. A lot of kind of positive off the field things happening this summer. A lot of things that you kind of think to yourself, why weren't we doing that before? But
Yeah,
it's better late than never. So yeah, that's another good move.
yeah. And also, as we look towards some of our games, the Swansea tickets have been announced, £10 an adult, which I think is a bargain price.
That
I
is
mean,
really
I
good.
think it's a bit of a pain to get to Swansea. And even from where I live, I'm having to take days off work or a day off work to be able to go and come back. But it should be a good evening in Wales, crossing the border. So remember your passports as we hopefully get a decent result against Swansea. Today, so on Tuesday, some Sky Sports games were picked. So our game on the 15th of November against Gillingham has been chosen for live TV coverage. So kickoff will be at 5:30 for that game. Also, the game against Cheltenham on the 4th of January has also been picked as well to be shown on Sky Sports Plus. So
Scott
that's a
will be
long
fuming
time.
about that one.
Well,
Just
because of
because,
it being when it is.
yeah, the early kickoff 3 days after we play. I think we play at home on New Year's Day against Barnet off the top of my head. But yeah, I know from previous seasons where we've had games moved around that I don't think Scott will be too happy about the shorter recovery side. I don't know how much difference 3 hours makes, but yeah, and also more importantly, I think it really does mess fans around. The later kickoff, 5:30 at Gillingham isn't too bad. That's not like the worst thing you'll see this season in terms of fans being mucked around and games being moved. But I think asking Crawley fans to travel that way for a 12 p.m. kickoff is, and I know the TV money's good. I know it's important, but it still doesn't sit right with me. I kind of go back to what I was saying about being a bit of a traditionalist. For me, football should be at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. It's not a TV show. You should make it as easy and as accessible for fans to go and watch football in person, particularly their local club. And so, yeah, these half-12 kickoffs, I absolutely dread them. I think they're absolutely awful. No one's wanting to watch, Crawley v Gillingham v Crawley at 5:30 on a Saturday evening. Let's be honest. No one is kind of looking at that game going, cool, yeah, let's get that on the TV. So it doesn't even make sense from a commercial or like a viewer numbers kind of thing from Sky. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the game against Cheltenham at Cheltenham doesn't affect me at all because
Yeah,
I'm literally like 10 minutes away from the stadium there.
yeah, you still get a lion.
I do.
Everyone else
I
has
can
got to
be up
get up
at
at like probably 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, get a train
yeah.
up there.
I can be up at 11:30 and still get to the
Yeah.
game in time and have a drink. But because also the game at Crawley against Cheltenham is also at 12:30 or
Is that one
12
the
p.m.
other ones that's
kickoff.
been moved? Yeah, it's
12:30 p.m. kickoff. That has an effect on me. But I'm sure as I travel down with all the Cheltenham fans wearing my Crawley kit, that
maybe
we'll
I'm
have a
trying
good
to
time
find
on the train.
where it is we're playing them at home, because yeah, you might just have to wear a coat over it.
We're playing them on the 13th of September.
13th of September. Oh, wonderful. So yeah, you
Yeah,
could probably get away with a jacket.
it's red.
Yeah, just wear a jacket over it and travel down.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I just really don't like it. Sorry, it's going to be something that as it happens throughout the season, where more games get moved around, I'm going to rant about it every time. So
At least we've not been moved to a Thursday.
no, that hasn't happened to us last season either. I don't think. I don't think it might happen once. Yeah, if we've got like, I don't know, Barrow away on a Thursday, I think that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, where it just takes the proverbial. It really does. But anyway, I'll stop ranting about it now because I think I've made my point.
Um, then we will, and we've got some questions that we'll run through in a bit. But just an update on the new ownership. Because as of, I think maybe an hour ago before recording, Company's House got updated. It's all a very exciting time in the world of sport and Crawley. And the update was saying that we've got some new directors. Daniel Kalili, as well as Maxwell Stroman, are now active directors. And then Preston Johnson is still down as a director. But it'll be interesting to see over the course of the coming days how if that changes much, or if at all.
Are we going to see a second resurrection of Preston Johnson? Because I feel like that's weird that he's still listed as a director, because it seemed very, we said this last week, it seemed very like final and definite, his statement. That seemed like very much a burning of the bridges. So to outwardly criticise in your outgoing statement, in your goodbye message, to criticise the direction of the club and the leadership of the club. And he wasn't like scathing of it, but he made it very clear he disagreed with it and he didn't want, he couldn't be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I should imagine that they're probably just going through a period of just admin.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to sort all of that type of stuff out.
To be fair, no one likes doing admin.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't take too much of Company's House, the snapshot of Company's House as of 29th of July, too much. I'd give it a few till the end of the week into next week, and then see what the changes are like.
Fair. Yeah.
When I think probably things would have been sorted, and hopefully the likes of Ryan Gilbert and the other owners will release a statement saying what their plans are kind of going into next season, or this season now.
Absolutely. We definitely need some visibility from the new ownership. Said this last week. It's one of the most positive things they could do, just to be more transparent and more visible. But yeah.
But I think transparent needs to be a consistent transparency. It's like with Preston's podcast. It's all well and good doing a podcast when we're winning, but if you're not then going to do a podcast even when you're losing, and don't do a podcast at all. So I think it's just about kind of. I should imagine Preston, when he first came into the club, probably was a bit naive about it, saying that they'd be open, transparent, honest. Then realised actually how open and transparent and honest they could be. And so I think it's just about kind of being honest with how honest you can be.
Yeah. And I think, there's also an element of, as fans, we don't need to know every little thing that goes on at the club. And I think people maybe forget that sometimes. I don't know. I don't know if that's too harsh to say, but I feel like there is there's almost like a, we don't need to know everything. There's no club like airs all its dirty laundry or is completely transparent with decision making or what's going on behind the scenes. So I think that's a good point in terms of we want the new leadership or ownership to be quite open and honest and transparent, but sort of realistically, be realistic about it, and we don't. There's some things that probably just aren't. The fans don't need to know. Maybe I don't know, but I'm probably, having spent years calling for transparency, I'm kind of maybe rowing back on it a little bit now. But I think there is. I think it's got, as fans, we have to be realistic with what we expect. We should demand accountability and transparency, but it has to be. We don't need to know if the tea lady's been sacked. We don't need to know if every little nitty gritty detail, because it kind of creates a situation where it's almost like an information overload. be transparent and honest with us about the important stuff, about the direction of the club on the pitch, about the finances, about who you are and what your intentions are for the club. That's the high level, really important things. That's the most important thing for me. And yeah.
And so moving on then, before we jump onto those questions that people have sent us on X Twitter, Louis, how would you like the chance to win a season ticket or monthly prizes like a £50 voucher for classic football shirts?
That sounds absolutely incredible. That is a £50 voucher in particular. Or I mean, I've already got my season ticket, so I would.
I don't know if it's season ticket for this season or for the following season.
If it's for the following season, well, either
It will
sounds
be
good.
for the following season. It will
Okay.
be for the following season, not for this season.
Either sounds good. I'd be very happy with either because I do like collecting football shirts and I do like having a season ticket at Crawley Town.
Well, perfect. Because this is your chance to win some of these prizes. All you have to do is sign up to Fantasy EFL and join the Simply Reds League. I mean, you've got to be quick because it starts on Saturday, so you make sure you get the head start over some other players. And on our social media, we'll put the league name and the passwords, and you can sign up and be in a chance to win all of those prizes. So make sure you do it, and you could avoid having to pay for a season ticket next season when we're storming it in League One.
That sounds actually. This is a genuine reaction for me. This is the first time that I found out about this, so I'm very excited about this. And I do get quite competitive with fantasy football. I'm not going to say I'm any good because I typically make bold, rash transfers. If someone doesn't score, they're straight out the door. Even if it could be the top scorer in the league. If they don't score 1 week, they're out. But that is a massive incentive for me to actually, and also, I know there's a lot of people who do the thing where you really pay attention for the first 2 or 3 months, and then you just forget about it because there's other more important things.
One, then you've missed 2. Then by the time you know it, season's over, and you've still got an injured Dion Conroy in your defence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite good at paying attention to it, but I know my dad, for example, sorry to call him out, but my dad's quite bad at he'll pay attention for the first 3 months, and then you'll notice if you look at his team 5 months down the line, his captain's injured, and his bench is full of injured players as well. But that is definitely an incentive to stick with it and try and get up at the top of the league. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Correct. Well, should we jump into those questions then, Louis?
Yeah, so we asked you for your questions this week, and we've got some really good ones. Who are the owners? Chris is asking who are the owners would be a good start, and we kind of touched on that already. But it looks like the admin we're in the middle of the admin being done, judging by Company's House, and I feel like it's no great shock that it's the Crawley brothers who appear to be having director titles at the club now.
Yeah. So far it's just Daniel Khalili as well as Maxwell as the company's directors. On the ownership statement for the club, it currently has Maxwell down, and it also has Ryan Gilbert down as well. And then it also has, if I can quickly find it, Daniel Khalili. So there's currently no mention of Raf Khalili, but I believe that he will still be around. And he was spotted out in Spain for the players. And so I should imagine it'd be those 4. Both the Khalili brothers and Maxwell were spotted at the game against Crystal Palace. And so no doubt we'll be hearing from them hopefully shortly.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers that to an extent. Obviously, like we kind of touched on, it'd be good to hear and see more of them in an official kind of capacity, whether that's a fans forum or whatever way that could be done. On a similar note, Stephen asks, what are the early signs of a better relationship with the new owners? He says, hopefully the CCSA have learnt a few lessons. If so, what do we think we can do better? So I guess Reuben, I'll hand that over to you as the chair. are there signs of a better relationship? Because I think it's, if we're being honest, the relationship that we had with Preston and Eben as a CCC was a little bit fractured. I think it's probably the kindest way to put it. Just in terms of it was contentious. It was, but we won't gloss over that. So yeah, Reuben, what can you tell us about the
I think early signs,
if anything, at the moment?
I think early signs are positive. But then, I mean, you could argue that when we first met Preston and et al., it was also quite positive. It's very much good about being able to speak a good game, but it's whether what is said can actually then be put into action. I mean, I should imagine a lot of the decisions over the past couple of months or so have probably been this new ownership group rather than Preston or Ben when they were around. So like going out to Spain for a tour, a tour of one place, was probably by the Khalili brothers. I think the changes around the stadiums. I think I've also probably been funded by the club, by the new ownership. And so, I mean, I've chatted to a couple of them a few times now. I'm going to be meeting them first home game of the season in person. So hopefully things can continue to be positive. But I mean, at the end of the day, football is a results-based business, isn't it? And so if we have a bad one of form, people are going to turn to the ownership group rather than to the players or the manager. I mean, I should imagine, even though we have seen a change in ownership, I know you had this issue as to what you call it, is it new ownership? I should imagine Rugby United will still stay the kind of principal name of what they're under, because I mean, despite the changes around the stadium, we've still kept the Rugby United signs up. Whether I think it's better to kind of move away from that branding, because it's got for a lot of fans, or a number of fans, there still kind of some negative connotations with Wagme. And so whether they potentially need to go for a new name change. Also, with football fans in general, there's you hear the name Wagme and people just laugh, really. And so whether it's for the best, whether a name change is needed, who knows?
Yes. What is good is that they are open to meeting you pretty early on. I mean, so were Preston and Eben, to be fair. And like you said, I think whatever they say, it's important they back it up with actions. And I think that's where the proof will be in what they do and how and the direction they take the club in going forward. Whether there's more stability, and you're right to say that ultimately they'll be judged by what happens on the pitch. Hopefully the outcome of your meeting with them is positive, and there's some positive actions that come out of it as well. On a similar note, George asked, how is your relationship with the owners, and are you optimistic that they will take the club forward in the right direction? I think you've kind of gone over that. So he did also ask.
I think it's a similar style question.
He did also.
I mean, it's still early doors. I mean, from early conversations, it's been pretty positive. It's just about them now coming out and saying who they are, what their plans are. Because I mean, Preston, I think on end of season statement, he said something about there being a multi-year plan, and so it'd be good to know what this multi-year plan is, and whether kind of this was a Prestonism.
Yeah, was that his plan? Is that the plan that? Because he, whatever early stages of the plan we're in, he clearly disagreed with it in his statement. So it'd be really interesting to see what they believe is the right direction for the club going forward. What this multi-year plan is, whether that's just been ripped up, and in terms of, I think we're looking for stability. We're looking for some growth on and off the pitch, and I think tearing up a multi-year plan right at the start of it is probably not a great start. But we don't know if that's the case. The proof will be in how they act and what their intentions are, rather than what they say. George did also ask, moving to on the pitch matters, what are our predictions for the season, thoughts on the strength of the squad and where we can improve. And we sort of talked about the strength of the squad and kind of where we might like to see one or two players brought in earlier. Definitely looking for some more firepower, like I said at least. And Reuben, you didn't actually. I don't know what your thoughts would be on that. Normally it's me answering the questions, so I'll hand that over to you.
No, I don't like answering questions. I'm the only one asking them. That's why I like hosting. I mean, I think up front we haven't really scored that many goals against good opposition. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether the likes of whether our kind of leading strikers score goals. I mean, we've got Flower, who we haven't seen in the past couple of games, who although has contributed for goals when we've scored, when we've played against lower league opposition. I mean, I just get flashbacks. Was it Mo Shabar or someone like that, who we had on trial, who scored loads and loads of goals for fun? I don't think he ever played a game for us.
Yeah, I don't know how much. It's good to see him getting some goals and assists early on. I don't know how much you can read into it. I wouldn't, like I said, I'd never write a player off, but he doesn't come with a huge pedigree. So, but again, it's neither did Crawley Lolos, and he was absolutely brilliant for us a couple of seasons ago. Neither did Jay Williams, neither did Nick Cerula, neither did Charlie Barker.
Yeah,
there is absolutely not out of the question that signing these players from National League or the National League North or South, they come into League Two, and if they're players who are too good for that level, they're probably capable of doing well at League Two level. So that the proof will be in the pudding, or the eating of the pudding, or whatever the saying is. I feel like it's odd. It's odd to be talking about a Scott Lindsay side and having doubts over whether we'll score goals. It feels really odd that I'm kind of more confident about us defensively than I am going forward this year, which is not something I ever thought I'd say about a Scott Lindsay Crawley side.
It's interesting you say that, because actually, if you look at our squad, who've played on Friday night, sorry, it's actually quite an attacking squad. I mean, you look at the likes of Harry McCurdy, you look at the likes of Shamanga, you look at the likes of Harry Forster. We've got Dion Pieri still available when he's not injured. Adi Adiemo, you've got. Can I mention Cashman? We've got quite a few players who can actually probably score some goals for us. And I almost think we'll be trying to outscore more. We're just going to be trying to score as many goals as possible, knowing that we're going to concede a number of goals. And so, yeah, I mean, have you guys made a prediction yet? Did you make a prediction last podcast as to where we'd finish?
I can't remember. I think I sort of made a comment about us finishing mid-table, and I'll go first. And I think we will finish. I'm going to say, I'm going a little bit more optimistic than that. I'm going to go 10th. I think we'll be more than fine. We'll be quite fun to watch. Something mental will happen in the middle of the season with regards to something off the pitch, because that's just Crawley Town. And yeah, I think we'll be solid, but I think it's I said this last week, it's a really strong League Two. And I know we kind of came down having finished League One really strongly despite the relegation. And I think we all looked at League Two last season where no one wanted to get promoted. It seemed like no one wanted to win the league. It was chopping and changing every week. Even in the playoffs, the standard of football in the playoffs last season in League Two was awful. And I think I certainly thought this at the time. I was like, well, if these are the teams at the top of League Two, we should be absolutely, we should be walking it next season. I think in the cold light of, 4 days before the start of the season, looking at the strength of the teams, I think it's going to be a really strong, really top-heavy league. So I think there's some really strong teams. You look at Chesterfield, Bristol Rovers, MK Dons. Obviously, we keep mentioning them. I'll promise not to mention them next week. Barnet, I think, if you're a really, really good National League team like Barnet were last season, like just head and shoulders above every other team in the National League, you will be a very good League Two team. That's generally been the case over the last decade, really. We saw it ourselves when we got promoted back to back. So that's not a new thing. Like teams who win the National League tend to be very, very good League Two teams. And also the strength of the National League means that they have to be really good.
No, 100%.
Yeah, and there's other teams that, I mean, there's very few teams like Swindon. Swindon have recruited really well, and they had a very strong second half of last season under Ian Holloway, who I'm surprised he's doing as well as he is at Swindon. I thought he was kind of done and dusted as a manager. So it's interesting to see him having a little bit of a renaissance in management. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and keep naming teams, but I think it's anything higher than 10th. I think it's a really, really strong season from us, and it won't be a disgrace. Like, I think there's a lot of Crawley fans who are really quite bullish on us. Oh yeah, we're going to be really good, and I think we are going to be a good side, but I just think there's going to be a few teams that are really strong, and finishing in the top half would be okay. And there's also teams that come down from League One really struggle. There was a stat on the excellent Not the Top 20 podcast. Go and listen to them after you've listened to us. They're doing their League Two preview of their 1 to 24, where they kind of predict where every club's going to finish. They kind of touched on the relegated League Two sides, and they mentioned that it was, I think, of the last 12 League Two, League One sides that were relegated, obviously not including us, not including this season's relegated sides, only 2 of them finished in the top half of League Two the next season. So, 3 seasons worth of relegated sides, and 10 of them, and they all just struggled. I mean, look at what happened to Carlisle last season as a prime example. They came down from League One, lots of American investment, looked like they recruited quite well, and they were abysmal for 90% of the season. So I think you can't take it for granted that you can just, all right, we're a League One side going into League Two, we're going to be fine. You can't take it for granted. What I think does put us in quite a good position is that we finished the season quite strongly. We were almost on an upward trajectory despite the relegation, which is probably rarely ever the case with a League Two side, or a relegated side going into League Two. Bristol Rovers might feel the same because they've got Darryl Clark back as their manager, who obviously got them promoted before, I think. So yeah, I think we'll be fine. That's a lot of words to say. I think we'll be absolutely fine. I wouldn't be surprised if we did challenge for the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if we turned out to be a pretty good side. No one expected us to do well a couple of years ago, and I'm kind of going off the strength of the squad and kind of where I feel like there's a few red flags in the squad that we kind of spoke about in terms of firepower and our depth out, our sort of the quality that we've got out wide, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have said that a couple of years ago. I would have looked at our squad a couple of years ago and thought we're going to struggle. So
no,
I'm probably feeling more optimistic than then. So maybe we might end up doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking at people's predictions for the league. There's one website I was reading an article about, and they said they predicted us like 18th, but they said Crawley could literally finish anywhere between 1st and 24th.
That was literally what the Not Top 20 preview said about us as well. They think we'll be fine, but they wouldn't be surprised whichever way it went, because we are just quite unpredictable.
We are. And I mean, we look at predictions. Yeah, people do literally put us in any of those 2 locations.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how we go. I think we'll probably finish 7th. That's my prediction. Get into the playoffs.
Do you know what? If we do, I'll be absolutely delighted.
And win at Wembley again.
I'll buy you a drink at Wembley if that's true. If that turns out to be the case.
Thank you.
If we finish 6th, you don't get the drink though, because you've very clearly said 7th. I think something that I do put a lot of stock in is because they do rarely get it wrong, as much as I hate to say it, the bookies. And the bookies have got us pretty much as a solid mid-table side. I think we are 22 to 1 to win the league, which sounds about right. You've got the usual teams as favourites, the teams that you would expect to have very short odds. And we're 22 to 1 alongside, I want to say, Harrogate and Cambridge or something like that. Like we're basically like joint 10th or joint something with Sky Bet. Other bookmakers are available. And so, yeah, that probably kind of I was looking at the odds either yesterday or this morning just as a bit of prep, and I kind of thought, yeah, that sounds about right. So kind of having us as a decent, just above mid-table side, or maybe just mid-table, that kind of lines up with my gut feel about where we are. And again, maybe that just reflects what you were saying about how we could literally finish anywhere from like 1st to 24th.
Yeah.
Perhaps it could well reflect that the bookies just don't know what to make of us, because there's again kind of what we've spoken about. There's lots to like about our squad, but I think there's probably a few areas of concern, and relegated League One teams don't do that well, and so maybe it just reflects that. But it kind of lines up with my expectations.
Yeah. Well, before we quickly shut up shop, I thought I'd just quickly update you because of something to do with cup rules and teams playing Europe and stuff. Barnet are having to play Newport to decide who kind of gets into the first round of the
Of course, yeah.
EFL Cup, League Cup. Newport were winning 2-0. Barnet then scored in the 97th minute to make it 2-1. Then they scored in the 99th minute of injury time. It's the 9th minute of injury time to make it 2-2. It's now going to penalties.
Wow. It's currently 2-2 on penalties as we record. I mean, this won't be much use to anyone listening in the morning.
No,
they'll know the result by then, but this is our live reaction to... Yeah, wow. We were the only... We played in the only other one of these games when we got promoted into the Football League against Wimbledon.
We did.
And I believe we won that 3-1 or something off the top of my head. That was an early... That wasn't played in June. I think that was played just after our first game of the season, possibly. Something like that. But yeah, they're quite fun. These games, they almost don't have a lot riding on them, the early League Cup games. But they do produce these absolutely mental like scorelines sometimes. And we've certainly seen a few of them ourselves.
They do. Well, thanks very much, Louie. I think it's time to shut up shop, considering I'm basically telling dark where I am because the lighting's so poor.
Pleasure as always.
Thanks very much, Louie, and we'll hopefully see all of you at a Crawley Town game soon. So come on, you Reds.
Come on, you Reds.